What is up, guys, and welcome back to another video. And today we're going over 10 times Batman brutally killed people. Alright, I'm making this video specifically for my friend who always complains that Batman should not be killing people in BVS. So this is for you, Dean. I hope you enjoy this video and I can't wait to use it in the future. Number 10, the warehouse scene in Batman vs Superman. After BVS was released, most people walked out of that movie theater with a list of complaints, such as Henry Cavill's underwhelming performance as Superman and Jesse Eisenberg acting more like the Riddler than Lex Luthor. But nothing, and I say nothing, can compare to the amount of hate Ben Affleck's Batman received for going on a murder spree. Okay, maybe calling it a murder spree is a little too harsh, but there's no denying the fact that this version of Batman was willing to kill anyone who stood in his way without showing remorse. That is a hero we stan. Some people think that Batman turned into a killer after spending 20 years seeing what criminals are truly capable of doing, while others believe that Snyder only included him killing people because it made for a good visual. Though the warehouse scene contains some of the best action moments in the DCEU, it showcased a very brutal Batman who had no problem with breaking his moral code. He forced criminals to fire their guns at each other. He knocked people into a hallway with a grenade that was about to explode. He used his grappling hook to hurl a large crate at a man's head, and he stabbed a few people. You know, you gotta have some stabbing sprees in there too. Even if these criminals miraculously survived, like some fans claim, they would still have to deal with very serious injuries that could possibly never heal, and you would have another Two-Face situation. You don't want that. Number 9, killing members of the League of Shadows. While BVS never mentioned Batman having a moral code, the Dark Knight trilogy is known for establishing him as a superhero who refuses to kill people, even if it may seem like they deserve it. In Batman Begins, Bruce joined the League of Shadows to seek the means to fight injustice. During his training, he was asked to kill a prisoner as his final test, which is what led to him discovering that Ra's al Ghul was only using him to lead a mission to destroy Gotham City. Since Bruce believed that the League of Shadows reached a high point of corruption and that their destruction was necessary to restore the world to balance, he decided to escape by lighting the League's temple on fire. Sure, Bruce didn't kill anyone with his own bare hands, but he's still responsible for an explosion that killed many of the League's assassins. The other big incident in the movie that the fans debate whether Batman killed somebody is the climactic battle on the train between Batman and Ra's al Ghul. Some fans defend this by pointing out that Bruce simply did exactly what he said. He didn't kill Ra's, he just didn't save him. Other fans argue that Bruce did kill him because he instructed James Gordon to destroy the support for the train and then left Ra's on board, knowing it would not be stopped. It all goes down to your ethics, and I think personally he did kill him because he didn't stop him even though he could have. Number 8, leaving the Lord Deathman to suffocate. During Grant Morrison's Batman run, he brought back characters who he felt like had a lot of potential to be great, including a Japanese crime lord named the Lord Deathman, who is capable of putting himself in a yoga trance to appear dead. In the comic, Batman Incorporated, the Lord Deathman attempts to kill all of the Japanese superheroes because he wants to gain control over the country, and that is obviously a great way to do so. Batman thought that he knew everything he needed to know about the Lord Deathman, but that all changed when he found out that the villain managed to survive getting shot multiple times and falling out of a 3-story window. You can't write this stuff, guys. It only happens in comics. About midway through his autopsy, he surprises everyone by resurrecting himself and immediately begins murdering as many civilians in the hospital as he possibly can, something that would happen in Grand Theft Auto 4. After realizing the Lord Deathman is immortal and that nothing can stop him from going on his murderous rampages, Batman comes up with a brutal punishment that he claims is even worse than death. Batman imprisons the Lord Deathman in a rocket and then sends him off into space where he has to spend an eternity circling around the planets. He leaves the crime lord in a state where he dies from suffocation and comes back to life a few minutes later only to die again. So if you think about it, he's infinitely killing someone multiple times. So this list can be like infinite amount of times Batman killed someone. You see? That's math for you. Number 7, setting a group of criminals on fire. Though Frank Miller deserves so much praise for creating The Dark Knight Returns, there's no denying that he's one of those comic book writers who can either hit a home run or strike out. The Dark Knight Strikes Again may have been a train wreck, but it surprisingly isn't as bad as All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder, which is saying a lot. Don't be fooled, Grant Morrison's impressive work on All-Star Superman is thankfully nothing like Miller's disastrous All-Star Batman. If All-Star Superman had an evil twin, it would be All-Star Batman. Miller turned Batman into a murderous psychopath who has a strong hatred towards authority, views women as objects, and abuses Robin to toughen him up. Seriously, how can anyone think it's a good idea to include Batman forcing Robin to eat rats? Alright, that's just sickening. Anyway, the comic definitely reached its lowest point when Batman sets a bunch of criminals on fire even though he could have easily just knocked them out. What makes this moment even worse is that Black Canary was sexually aroused when she saw Batman murdering criminals in cold blood. Remember that controversial scene in Man of Steel when Superman began making out with Lois Lane while Zod was destroying the city? Well, that scene suddenly doesn't look too bad when comparing it to the image of Batman and Black Canary having sex while criminals in the background are slowly burning to death. Oh my god, that picture is like engraved in my head right now. I gotta move on to the next one. Number 6, hanging the Monster Man with his bat plane. Fans are so used to associating Batman with a moral code that they sometimes forget that there was a time when he didn't have one. In the earlier days, Batman would shoot criminals to death, throw them out of a building, or beat them to death with his own bare hands. This shouldn't come across as much of a surprise considering that Batman was originally inspired by characters such as the Phantom and the Shadow. Of course, you can argue that the writers were still trying to figure out Batman as a character when they had him kill in his debut issue, but that wouldn't explain why Bob Kane, the co-creator of Batman, remembered the creation of the no-kill rule with bitterness. In fact, Kane stated that the whole moral climate changed when DC became more strict with heroes killing villains because he felt like Batman wasn't the Dark Knight anymore with all the censorship. In Batman number 1, an evil scientist used a toxic serum to turn a group of innocent mental patients into muscular, out-of-control monsters. Batman shot and killed the truck driver who was planning on taking one of the monsters to a bank that he wanted to rob, which is kind of low-key a good plan. After the truck stopped moving, Batman took the mental patient and lassoed him around the neck with a line from the Batplane so he could suffocate him to death. There is a trend with Batman and suffocating people to death. The Batman we all know and love today would have probably understood that he was an innocent man who deserved to get proper treatment, but this Batman thought he was better off dead. Number 5, leaving Abattoir to die in molten metal. To be fair, this one is a bit of a stretch because it may have been Batman who murdered the serial killer Abattoir, but it wasn't Bruce Wayne. Jean-Paul Valley, better known as Azrael, is a vigilante who Bruce trusted to take the mantle of Batman after Bane broke his spine. Most of Azrael's extraordinary abilities come from severe amounts of subconscious training and conditioning he was put through during his youth, unaware that he was being controlled by a 500-year-old devout religious sect called the Order of Saint Dumas. When Azrael allowed the conditioning to consume his thoughts, he went down a dark path and became more and more violent. In Batman number 508, Azrael confronted Abattoir and held him above a vat of molten metal. Abattoir asked for help, but Azrael started having visions of Saint Dumas, and in his troubled state of mind, he decided to let Abattoir fall to his death while a helpless Robin witnessed the entire events. After hearing the news, Bruce realized that he should have never chosen Azrael as his successor and stripped him from the mantle of Batman before he was able to completely tarnish the reputation. Number 4, letting KGBeast starve to death. While explaining why he hasn't killed the Joker, Batman said that if he allows himself to sink into the darkness, there's a possibility he won't ever come back. Alright, that sounded super dramatic for no reason. Apparently, this explanation only applies to some villains because Batman didn't seem to care when he turned to the dark side while facing the Russian assassin KGBeast. The Hammer, a top secret cell of the KGB, was annoyed with the Soviet Union for trying to improve their relationship with the United States, so they sent KGBeast on a mission to kill 10 high-ranking US officials. He proved to be dedicated to his mission when he poisoned and killed 100 people just to ensure that his target would die. After killing 7 of his targets, Batman finally lured him into the sewers so he could put a stop to all the killings once and for all. It only took 7 deaths, but then Batman came and, had to put a stop to it because 3 wouldn't be too much. It doesn't make much sense, but I'm being a little picky over here now. Batman knew that he couldn't capture KGBeast alive because the United States would hand him over to the Soviets, which means that justice wasn't going to be served, baby. So KGBeast wanted to settle their conflict by having an old-fashioned one-on-one battle Mortal Kombat style, but instead, Batman cornered him in a room and successfully locked the door. Like, this is something you do to your little brother when you're having an argument and then you tell him something's in the closet and then you just close the door. I don't know how he even fell for that. Batman notified the CIA that KGBeast was no longer a problem, implying that he planned on keeping him locked in the room until he starved to death. Understanding this would anger some fans, the Batman writers tried to take this moment back by claiming that he actually contacted the police to pick up the villain, but come on, there's no way of backtracking that, and you can't expect people to buy that BS, alright? You didn't fool me, Batman writers, not today. That's why you're on this video. Number 3, shooting Darkseid with a Radion bullet. It's fairly difficult to summarize the plot of Final Crisis in a few sentences because the story can be a little complicated at times, but to put it simply, Darkseid wants to undo all existence by cracking the anti-life equation, which proves that life is meaningless and causes the universe to start tearing itself apart. Batman knows that the only way he can stop Darkseid is by killing him. So now you're probably wondering, how does a powerless Batman defeat a powerful Darkseid? Don't get me wrong, Batman is an extremely skilled martial artist, and he's a genius level intellect, but Darkseid can literally erase almost anything from existence with his Omega beams. The comparison between Batman and Darkseid reminds me of the time Marvel fans made fun of Black Widow for practicing in a shooting range because they thought the guns were pretty much useless when your opponent is, someone as strong as Thanos. In Batman's case, a gun proved to be more useful than most would think. Recognizing Darkseid's existence as a threat, Batman made a once-in-a-lifetime exception and used a gun to shoot the cosmic villain with a Radion bullet. He was unsuccessful because Darkseid managed to survive the shot, but that doesn't change the fact that Batman pulled the trigger with the intention of killing Darkseid. Also, Batman contributed to the death because Flash would have never been able to kill Darkseid if he wasn't shot with a Radion bullet. So we're gonna be police detectives here, and we're gonna be a judge. We're gonna call it a second-degree murder. That's good enough with me. Number 2, impaling Reverse Flash with the sword. Similar to the KGBeast incident, it may feel like we're cheating by including this moment on the list because it technically wasn't Bruce Wayne who murdered Reverse Flash. It was his father, Thomas Wayne. Basically, it's an alternate timeline of Flashpoint. Robert Joe Chill ended up killing a younger Bruce Wayne instead of the parents, blah, blah, blah. Thomas responded by tackling down Chill with the intention of poisoning him, but decided to make his death more painful by slowly beating him up with his bare hands. After Thomas lost his son, he vowed to himself that he would seek revenge against those who would take away innocent lives by becoming Batman. Unlike Bruce's version of Batman, Thomas is far more ruthless and doesn't see any issue with killing criminals who stand in his way. In Flashpoint, Barry was trying to figure out a way to prevent the world from ending when Reverse Flash suddenly showed up and nearly killed him. But he was saved when Batman stabbed the villain through the chest with Wonder Woman's sword. Though the animated movie is a faithful adaptation of the comic book, it's a little different because instead of impaling Reverse Flash with a sword, Batman shot him in the head so he could give Barry enough time to restore everything back to its original timeline. And number 1, snapping the Joker's neck. Since the Joker is the yin to Batman's yang, it just wouldn't have made any sense to not choose this moment for the number 1 spot. In the controversial graphic novel, The Killing Joke, many fans found themselves wondering why Batman still hasn't killed the Joker even though he paralyzed Barbara Gordon, took off her clothes, and sent inappropriate pictures to her father. God knows what else he did to her. During their last confrontation in the novel, the Joker tells a joke that surprisingly makes the normally stone-faced Batman laugh. While they are laughing, Batman reaches across so he can lay his hands on the Joker's shoulders. As the picture moves away from Batman and the Joker, they abruptly stop laughing and the sirens of the police cars keep getting louder and louder. Once the noise is completely gone, the only thing that can be seen is the pouring rain. Some fans interpret this moment as Batman breaking his moral code by snapping the Joker's neck or strangling him to death. There are a handful of people who believe that Batman didn't kill the Joker. Instead, he allowed him to live so the police officers could send him back to prison. If this were true, it would most likely represent the never-ending cycle of the Joker finding a way to escape prison and Batman having to catch him before he terrorizes Gotham City. Anyways, that is it for the video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. I'm really trying to get interactive here, have some better content for all of you, so hopefully you are enjoying it. Follow me on Twitter at Valenplana, and I'll see you all in the next video.